Well, hi there. Welcome to Real Disability Talk. I'm Erin.
And I'm Ricky.
And you'll notice that we are missing Candace this week, but she is enjoying vacation, some time
Yes.
away with her hubby and her little boy. And we hope that she is relaxing and having a fabulous time. And
Yes.
what does she always say when she goes on her vacation? She gets these barbecue sandwiches, Pierce's barbecue sandwich. So I know that that's on the vacation isn't always about the food, but I know that's one on the bucket list for her.
Yes.
And making some good memories.
Of course,
Well,
always.
how are you doing, Ricky? It's been a couple it's been a couple weeks because I have been down for the count around
I
here.
know. I should be asking you how you're doing.
Well,
So,
I'm fine telling people I caught the Rona. So I'm bouncing back from it. It's not as bad as it could have been, but you'll hear it in my voice, for sure. It is what it is, but here we are. So how are
yes.
you? What's going on?
I'm doing okay. I am officially on summer break, so I'm enjoying some time off. I am doing summer school, but I have a week and a half kind of to myself to just do what I want and relax. Um, I'm still dealing with my gastritis, and I sampled a few things this week that were more acidic, and just to see how it went, and it kind of flared up again. So
Mm,
kind of back at the point of healing and trying to make sure that I stay away from acidic foods. So that's where I
mm.
am.
What are some foods that you're leaning on right now to help?
More salads, more vegetables than I had before. Getting my water in, um, just basic chicken, rice. I have some salmon in the fridge. I did make a recipe, which I can't even remember. I don't think I remember to post this last week, but I brought back the Skinny Taste zucchini taco boats, which used to be like
Yes.
a go-to because they have like different. They have the taco one. There's an Italian one. There's all kinds. And it's the zucchini is a really good vehicle for the taco filling that's low carb. So I'll have to post that this week. But that was something I did. I went back to the basic of um, cooking because I realized I'd been doing a lot of things that were, maybe heating something up in a pan for a few minutes, but not truly like a recipe with all the prep. So it was nice to do that again this week.
That's awesome. I love, that's a great recipe. I love doing zucchini boats. I've forgotten about
Mhm,
that. And we're
mhm.
coming up on, we're coming up on zucchini season. We just planted, I think we've got 6 or 7 plants in our garden. The rabbits are chewing up like crazy, so I'm
Oh
hoping we actually get some
no.
zucchini. But I
Oh.
cannot wait for zucchini season and garden season. Like my
Mhm.
mom, we planted potatoes
Oh,
and we
fun.
we just pulled a harvest of potatoes, and
Wow.
this past week was, Paul, my nephew's 6th birthday, and
Oh,
so we
happy
had everybody at
birthday,
the house, and
Paul.
we made potato salad out of the potatoes from our garden.
That is amazing.
It was so fun. It was
Did you
awesome.
notice the difference between the taste of them versus store-bought? Wow.
No,
Okay.
no, and I'm like, "And they're free from our garden.
Imagine
Done."
that.
So we've replanted some more, so we'll have another harvest in a couple weeks, and I'm like, "That Ricky, you could do this one. You could
Wow.
do this." I'm telling you. We put
Maybe
it in
I
one of those,
will.
it's in a bucket. It's in a
Okay.
container. So it's
Wow.
perfect for a patio or for someone who has, like a condo and you think, "Oh, I can't have any
Mhm.
type of a garden." Yep.
Mhm. That's good to know. I'll have to try that.
And listen, depending on your program, a half a cup of potatoes is what, 2 points or 3 points, so it's not a bad
Mhm.
deal.
No, not at all.
Not at all. So I wanted something that I was thinking about today, because I had today off and I realized I got ready to go to Dunkin' Donuts and I was like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna get myself a drink. And I'm like, why am I going to Dunkin' to get a drink?
Mhm.
I'm like, because I have today off. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not a reason to go get a drink. Like, why are we doing this? And I realized it was because today was a day off and I just felt like doing something. And to me, doing
Mhm.
something equated getting food. And then a little bit later in the day, and I thought, oh, I'll go to the bubble tea shop. That's a little bit away from me. And I was like, why am I going to the bubble tea shop?
Mm.
Again, because I'm going to go do something fun, and fun equates food. And like, there is a whole world out here. But for me, fun equates getting food.
Mhm.
And so maybe the topic that I was just kind of thinking about for us is when the relationship with food changes, how we fill that void. Do we fill that void? And what does that look like? Because I
Mhm.
realize there are some holes in my life that I used to fill with food.
Mhm.
And as I've talked about before with the discipline and the consistency,
Mhm.
I'm trying really hard not to do that. And I know for you right now, you're in a situation where you might enjoy food for something, but your body is rejecting anything that
Mhm.
isn't like nutritious based food.
Mhm. Yeah.
What do you how are you feeling that right now? Because I feel like maybe joy has been taken out of food for you right now.
Yeah, there a little bit, because I love coffee. Coffee is just something I enjoy so much, and not even to the point of addiction. I know I was telling you before we got on here, once I stopped drinking it, I didn't have any withdrawal symptoms, I didn't have headaches or anything like that, but I truly enjoy the taste of coffee, and for me, it's part of my morning routine. I love coffee houses, I love the smell of it. So, not having it, and I think that that is one of the things that I brought back this week to kinda test out, it kinda saddens me a little bit, and my doctor said it doesn't have to be a permanent thing, but at the same time, just not having it, not making my coffee in the morning at home. It's not even always about going out. It's just the routine that I enjoyed. Does make me feel like something's missing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's been hard.
It's relational, it's emotional, it's relational, it's
Mhm,
routine. I think that's a good word for it.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I just I've been thinking a lot about that because I realized how much, going out to eat or something like that is part of routine. And when we commit to a healthier lifestyle, a lot of our routines have to change.
mhm. Yeah.
Well, actually, let me bounce that back. I just said that our routines have to change. Do our routines have to change?
Some of them, I so for an example, I went to a housewarming this weekend, and it was a lot of fun. My friend, though, I tend to eat at a certain time of day, and, it was a Saturday night, and she had food, but it wasn't until, like, 10 o'clock that she served dinner,
Like
and I
10 o'clock
didn't
at
end up
night?
Yes.
We're at 10 o'clock at night, we're in bed.
Right,
I'm
and I
not
was
the person that you wanna invite. If we're starting the party at 10, I'm not there.
Exactly. It was hard to eat a little later because that's the other thing with, any type of acid reflux or gastritis, like, it's worse at night when you're lying down, so from what I've researched, it's better to, like, have a hard stop on eating at, like, 6 o'clock or, a significant amount of time before you're gonna be lying down, going to sleep. So I hadn't been eating later, and that was a change too because especially if you're sitting on the couch, it's late at night, sometimes you just kind of mindlessly want to go to the kitchen for a snack, even if it's a healthy snack. Sometimes that's a choice that I would make before, and that routine had to change. I had to say, okay, 6 o'clock, I'm not eating anymore, just water from now on, even if I stay up late watching a movie.
Wow. Wow. I mean, but that right there is a holistic change.
Hmm.
That's a routine disruptor
Hmm.
and really creating a new routine, if you
Yeah.
will. And sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like on our health journeys, it feels like we're creating so many new routines
Mm.
that there are times that it almost feels easier to give up, because
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like one more new thing, one more thing. It almost can feel like overwhelm.
Hmm. And but then when you have something like your food allergies or like this gastritis that I'm going to, you don't really have that option unless you want to feel the physical like consequences of discomfort or pain even from making that. So it's like you still have that feeling of deprivation or feeling of like loss. even though there's nothing you could do, even if your better judgment wants to say, I give up, I'm going to have the coffee, whatever it is, you don't want to hurt yourself. So you just have to make a different choice.
Yeah. The feeling of loss, you just tapped into something because for me, when I was adapting to all of my allergy changes,
Mhm,
it's definitely a feeling of loss
mhm.
because I can't go out and eat the same places with my friends.
Yeah.
Or if we go out and eat, I'm literally like eating the same thing all the time.
Mhm,
There's no joy in eating out like there once was.
mhm,
And there's a big sense of loss when you realize how big of a role food plays at holidays and
mhm,
even just when you're busy. You know, when you're busy, you can just go stop at a fast food place, grab lunch, and keep going.
mhm.
Everything has to be planned out so much. You have
Yeah.
to know your places of where to go. And it does, it feels like a loss. Now, let's say for somebody, though, who they're starting or they're in the middle of their health journey, right? And
Mhm,
maybe they're feeling lost. They're feeling the loss as well.
mhm.
Even though they may not have any allergies, what what's something we could do to encourage them? What are some ways that you've adapted to the loss? Because you've been in this space before, and I have been in this space prior to allergies, prior to gastritis,
Mhm,
where this journey is a conscious decision
mhm.
to give up.
Yeah. I think what I've learned is we've said it before, and it was, Heather, one of our former coaches, who said, feet first and the head will follow. I think sometimes it's doing it even if you're not happy about it. Just, you may want to throw a temper tantrum and complain or whatever it is, but just saying, okay, I've made a decision not to have this. I know there's a drive through right there, but I'm choosing not to. And I may feel disappointed in the moment, but that moment will pass. And then on the other side of it, I have the positive reward. Like you said, it's not going to be immediate. The reward from, let's go with the fast food example, the reward from the fast food is immediate because I feel great. But in the long run, it's not a reward. It's not doing anything. It's doing the opposite of what I want it to do to my body. So it may feel like a positive thing, but if we can get past that initial discomfort or the initial frustration of not giving ourselves what we want in the moment, we can get past that to a positive outcome that truly makes us feel good and does something positive for our bodies.
Mm. I think about the lesson, I think it was around this time in last year as one of the focuses of the workshop. And we've referenced this before, talking about the new brain pathways,
Mm,
that you have to create these new brain pathways. And they equated it to like a field of high grass. And you have to start walking on that high grass and tamping it down. And the more
mhm,
times that you go over that, you start to create that pathway.
mhm,
And when we do things like that, making different food choices, it feels hard at first, right? Trying to tamp down that high grass is
mhm,
really effortful because you got to lift your legs up so high. But then the next time you pass over it, well, there's less that you have to do. And then the next thing you know,
mhm.
you've walked that same pathway so much, you've worn it down to the dirt. The grass doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And to me, that's it. That is those first initial times of saying no. Those are effortful.
Mhm,
They feel like deprivation. But the more
mhm,
that we keep saying no to these one things so that we can say yes to something else, right? Whatever our goal is. And I think that's the thing for me that I always have to keep in mind is I'm not just saying no. Actually, what I'm
mhm,
doing is I'm saying yes. So what is it that I'm saying yes to? And is this
mhm,
yes worth what I'm doing? Why I'm saying this no? Because I'm saying this no for a reason,
mhm.
right? I'm not saying no just because. I'm saying no so I can say yes for a different reason. And that other reason has to be the thing that pulls me forward to make this no worthwhile. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean I'm not going to feel that deprivation in the moment, or it
Yeah,
doesn't mean that I'm not going to feel uncomfortable.
yeah.
But at an eventual point, I'm going to feel happy with the yes.
Mhm. That's true. I think about social situations again and how we can often say no to things and have people, make comments or things that make us feel uncomfortable, like those food pushers or those drink pushers. I again was at this housewarming, and I enjoy having a glass of wine. I'm not like a big drinker, but I like having a glass of wine here and there, and that's something I really haven't been able to have with the gastritis. So I was tempted. I was like, well, what if I just try it? I knew out of all the things I could have or try, that's probably the worst one to throw into my esophagus right now. So I said no, and then someone was like, "What? You're not gonna have some," And it's almost like the food pushers. There's always going to be someone who makes you feel bad, and it's hard. I want to ask the same question to you because in that situation like we're in where there might be like a food or a drink where we absolutely can't have, it's easy to say no because I don't have another choice. But
Mhm.
how do you think you would advise someone who's maybe newer in the program or in the middle of the program and they're facing that temptation between like, this is what I want, I'm telling myself I'm not going to have it, but then there's people who are encouraging me or making me feel bad about my choice not to.
Yeah, I would say one, that's a muscle that has to be built over time. And it's also really hard not to react with offense
Mm-hmm.
too. I'll just put that out there. And
Yeah.
so you'll know going into it, it's probably going to happen. So already having some things programmed in your mind of how you want to respond, because you're going to say no, and then they'll swing back around, and they'll
Mhm.
keep pushing and pushing. And so it's learning how to build that muscle to say no. But I
Yeah.
would just say, why are you turning down the food? Why are you turning this particular piece of food down at this moment?
Mhm.
Um, and so maybe to go back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago, you're saying no to this so that you can say yes to what?
Mhm.
Um, and really examining that way. Personally, for me, where I'm in my journey, if somebody was to offer me a gluten-free, dairy-free slice of cake, I probably would say yes to it.
Mhm.
Um, but let's say this is Aaron you know, pre what do they call food allergies, pre-food allergies,
Mhm.
right? Um, there are times when I would practice what I would call donut sobriety. I think I've talked about this before, right? But
Yes.
like I had a real problem. I had a real problem with donuts. Like it was a thing. It sounds so stupid now when I talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was like donuts and fast food were like that was a real issue for me. And
Mhm.
I realized that was holding me back from doing some things because
Mhm.
I was obsessive about it, and I had to practice what I call donut sobriety and fast food sobriety because
Mhm.
I needed to be eating better foods for myself. And there were times where I would go to something and I'm like, okay, I really can't eat cake here. And it's not because I can't eat it. See, you can do that on WW. You can have cake,
Mhm.
you can have all of the things, right? You just track it. We should not live in fear of any type of food. I very firmly believe that. But there might be times where we may want to practice like a food sobriety on something because we know that if we eat this, it's going to lead to other things that aren't helping us in our journey. And so maybe for a
Mhm.
small period of time, pizza or fast food or some other things we've got to set to the side so that we can develop a better taste palette.
Yeah.
So I would just say, before you say no, why are you saying no? And being clear on what your no is and why. They
Mhm.
don't have to know it. And no is a complete answer. I learned that
Mm.
from my friend Tessera. No is a complete answer. You don't owe
Mhm.
anyone an explanation. And you can literally just say, because I'm not going to. And if they
Mhm.
push, you just repeat the same answer. No, because I don't
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah.
It feels unfathomable to other people because you're there in this party atmosphere, but I watched my friend Dave do this. Dave
Mhm.
doesn't want something, he's not gonna eat it, and he won't, and he'll sit at a table happily with a boiled egg and, like, a carton of yogurt, happy as a
Uh-huh.
lark, while everybody else is eating pizza and stuff. He's like, "No, because
Mhm.
I don't want that, I want this." I'm like, "Okay, that's Dave."
And
But
and the
people respect
reason
that.
Yeah. And the reason that someone else is pushing that on you doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with them and their own discomfort with you making a different choice. Maybe they said
Yeah.
they weren't going to eat pizza or they weren't going to have two slices or whatever it is. And you sitting there having the egg and the yogurt makes them feel bad about their own, not sticking to their own choices that they originally planned.
Yes.
So I think that helps too, knowing it's not about me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think the other part, I think that there's another layer to it, which I wish Candace was here because we talked about this in one of the meetings and she did not like when I said this, but
Uh-oh.
it was um, about people don't believe us because we've spent so much time
Yes.
yo-yoing. They've watched us yo-yo back and forth. And it's all
Mhm.
about building a consistent habit of having them see that we're serious about this way of life. And
Mhm.
saying no to cake doesn't necessarily say that we're serious about this, way of life. Because eating the cake could be like, yeah, look, I'm doing this in freedom, right?
Mhm.
But there is a layer of I don't want to be here at one thing and then say no to the cake and then go off the rails at another party, and I'll have
Mhm.
had someone inconvenience themselves for me because they've tried to do all of these extra foods. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm eating all of this." Like,
Mhm.
I wanna get to a place of evenness when it
Yeah.
comes to some of those things. But how about you? Because I know you face a lot of that with the schoolroom, right?
Mhm.
There's always the treats in the schoolroom. There's always stuff, I think teachers have a whole teachers and nurses because everything I hear are like the nurses' room and the teachers' room are always
Mhm.
filled with stuff.
It's terrible. And it's hard because it really depends on my mood, the time of day. There's times I've gone in there looking, hoping, please let there be a cupcake on the table. Like, um, and there's other times where I've passed by a pile full of chocolate 10 times in a day and not picked it up. So it depends on, I think, my mood and my mindset in that moment because it can be perfectly fine and then somebody can do something to frustrate me and it's not that it's their fault, but I might be in a different mindset when I go buy the chocolate again. So I have had to um, put in a few different supports. Like, I know that if I'm going to go in lunchtime, there'll be other people there. I eat lunch with the same people, and some of them know that I'm trying to work on being healthier and making healthier choices. So if they see me picking up the chocolate on the table, they'll look at me. I actually had one of my wonderful coworkers. I got a chocolate bar from the vending machine at a time she happened to not be in the room, and she passed by me and saw it. She said, "Let's split that, okay?" And it was her very kind way of saying, This is how I'm going to help you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, um, tell you you're wrong or you shouldn't have done that. I'm going to support you by saying, okay, you want a chocolate? That's fine. Let's split it. You don't have to have the whole candy bar." And she didn't say it like that, but that accountability
Mhm.
adds a whole nother layer of support. And I think I'd encourage anyone who's in that situation to have those people there. Because sometimes you're mad that you see them. It's like, man, I almost got down the hallway without her seeing me. But at the end, I was so glad that I did.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing from you is that the accountability and the support of other people, choosing to sit with people at lunch, it's
Hmm.
when it's when you're by yourself
Yeah.
is where things can get in trouble, right?
Mhm. It's like
Um,
Jekyll and Hyde. It's like I have to protect myself from the other side of me. Because the side of me that went through the vending machine when I was by myself, it was planned. I was like, okay, I don't think she's going to be in the lounge right now. Let me run in and get this. And it's sneaky, but I know that the other side of me said to that person and said to my accountability friends, like, hey, I'm trying to work on this. I'm trying to decrease my sweets and all of this. So it's like one side of me is saying those things as a protective thing to protect me from myself. It's not anyone else who's done it, you know?
mhm. Isolation, I think, is the most dangerous part of the journey
Yes,
because then
100%.
it's in isolation where
Mhm.
either we'll convince ourselves of untrue things, and I think this is for anything. When I think I've talked about this before, having battled depression,
Mm-hmm.
isolation is the worst thing in the world for depression. Like, you want to be able to kind of crawl off into a corner, and you don't want to engage with anybody because you don't have the energy. But it's in the isolation where, your brain will start telling you the wrong things about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even convince you to do something that you wouldn't do if you were with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
accountability and being with others, I think, is an important part even of just this health journey.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if we're in the stage where we're fighting against ourselves. You said that Jekyll and Hyde thing. I'm like, that's like me and donut sobriety.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's how I felt. Like, it was this Jekyll and Hyde thing. Like, one minute I'm okay, and then the next I'm like, I need the donuts, and like, I'm a whole different person. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
Um,
I think about all the times that I have gained weight, and it started in high school, but I think it was also a time where I was, learning. That time it was like I just didn't know
mhm,
like what was good, what a good portion was. But then the next time that I gained the weight, it was college there. And that was like, when you talk about isolation, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was away from home. I was 5 hours away. I was meeting new people. I was lonely. I had lost a family member at that time. I gained the freshman 50 and, not 15, 50 in that time. And that was, I've made other connections to the loss and to the depression, but I think the isolation too of, not having the same friends, family wasn't nearby. And I think about when I moved out for the first time into my first apartment, I gained then too. And I've never made that connection before, but I mean, you
mm.
really hit the nail on the head with that isolation.
What if so I have 2 thoughts on the isolation. What if, one, Weight Watchers, WW, I should say. Here's the cool thing about WW where it is right now is
Mhm.
it's quote unquote impossible to be isolated now because we have Connect, and there are friendships that can be built on Connect, and accountability that can be built through Connect, and
Mhm.
through the meetings, through the online meetings. So you can be as known or anonymous as you'd like, right?
Mhm.
And then of course there are the in-person meetings if you choose to do that as part of your subscription. So you
Mhm.
have the ability to be known and to be able to form accountability partners. And golly, inside of the Real WW Talk Facebook group, we have people who are making accountability partners within the Facebook group. There's 3,800 people in the group. Surely you can find one, right? And if
Yes.
you want one, just put in the group, "Hey, I'd love an accountability partner," and see
Mhm.
people will respond, and that's amazing. So we have to work for that, though. We
Mhm.
do have to work for accountability. And
Yeah.
I do think that there's the fear of we'll get turned down if we ask for help, that we'll get turned down
Mhm.
because we've been turned down other times, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that's a way forward for us,
Mhm.
and those are opportunities, and we do have to take that little step forward.
I love
Go
that you
ahead.
said that. I went to Coach Gigi's meeting. She's one of my favorite coaches, and um, she this week one of the members shared. I forgot where she lives, but they were closing down the closest center to her, and she was
Mm,
really concerned about her progress because the next closest center after this one closes would be, I think, over an hour away. So Gigi said, "Put in the chat where you are, and." In this group, we'll find someone that can put that post on Connect and find someone. So maybe you can alternate driving with them, and you can coordinate, going together and then going grocery shopping or something like that. So that is so important. I think there are people who, even within the meeting rooms, the virtual meeting rooms now are able to, even if there's some people in Miami and some people in Ohio, like make those connections and
mhm.
build accountability, friendships, and
Well,
partnerships.
I think about, Ashley and Jennifer from our
Mhm.
group, who met each
Yes.
other within the meeting space, but then they
Mhm.
met a whole host of people through Connect,
Mhm.
And it was Ashley's birthday, I think, that they
I
all
think
flew
so.
in for her
To
birthday.
DC. Yeah, yeah. And they would have never known each other if not for that Connect community and all, having the same struggles and same excitements and things to share. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah. There's opportunities. There are opportunities everywhere for us to not live in isolation, but it does
Mhm.
require us having to take a step forward
Yeah.
to do something about it. And I know that that step forward can feel really scary.
Mhm.
And it feels like work. And when you're doing so many other things that feel like work, why would you want to do one more thing? But that actually could be the one thing that feels like freedom eventually, though, because I
Mhm.
think about our relationship, right? I mean,
Mhm.
this is a place of freedom for me,
Mhm.
and that took us in the meeting room, just that little bit of trepidation of like, "Hi, I'm Erin. Hi, I'm Ricky," right?
Right. And 10 years later.
And 10 years later, here we are, a Vegas trip and all kinds of
uh
things thrown in there.
Yeah. It really it is hard. It's hard to take that first step. I think we all fear rejection or fear that, we're not going to be liked, but once you take that first step, and for some people it might even start with sharing their tracker in the group and or just posting to say hi, I'm a new member in the group. We would love to welcome you. We'd love to see your tracker. We'd love to, whatever accountability people need, that's what we are here for each
Mhm.
other.
Yes. So I think that accountability, to go back to kind of where we started about the emotional connection with food and the deprivation and
Yeah.
those pieces, I think that accountability helps with that,
Mhm.
because to go back to where you were with your being in school and your friendship that you have with people, sitting at lunch together, you guys
Mhm.
working together, all of a sudden the focus shifts away from food to the friendship. It shifts to
Mhm.
people, and people are
Yeah.
more important than anything. Um,
Mhm.
and that's where conversations are built, and that's where love is built,
Mhm.
through words and through the conversation. And that takes that takes the focus in this intense, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like when you're like, I call it an obsession, like this intense
Mhm.
obsession around food, like
Mhm.
this, like I can't get it out of my mind kind of thing. All of a sudden it
Mhm.
starts to fade away because it becomes less important, because
Yeah.
you have people that you're interacting
Yeah.
with. So maybe in those moments where we feel like we have such an emotional attachment to food, really what that is that's a cry for an emotional attachment to people, that we're
Mhm.
using food to fill a void that really only interaction with other humans can
Mhm.
fill, or maybe an interaction with nature, or finding something outside of food, because if
Mhm.
hunger isn't the problem, food isn't the solution.
Yeah. I think sometimes, it's the inward problem. It's like I am focused too much on me. What do I want? What does my body want? My flesh wants this. I want candy. I want, it's like we're internally just a 5-year-old who's like, this is what I want. I'm gonna go get it. This is
Yep.
what I want right now. I want it now. And it's kind of like, okay, well, what else is going on in the world? Like you're saying, like there's wars going on in the world. There's, even just right in front of our doorstep, maybe there's somebody's cat is missing and they need help walking around the neighborhood looking for it. Like there's so many things externally. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about with the relationships and things, that if we open our eyes to what's going on, and it goes back to the boredom a little bit too, or even depression. It's like I'm focused on what I don't have, or I'm focused on what I have nothing to do. Let me do this. If I look at outside of myself, there's probably something I can do to help someone else, or something I can do to, not to say we're distracting from our problems or we're not fixing any
Right.
internal things that we need healing for. I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
there are things externally we can focus on. If it is a boredom problem, if it is a food craving, can I stop that train of thought and focus on
Mhm.
someone else or something else?
Mhm. It's learning the holes that we have and how we actually really want to fill them, and not the
Mhm.
way that we've conditioned ourselves to fill them with
Yeah,
food. Yeah.
absolutely.
Ooh, good conversation.
Yeah.
Good conversation. Well, next week, hopefully we'll be back with Candace. She'll be back from vacation. And if you want to catch up with us, you can always find us inside the Real WW Talk Facebook group. And we're also on Instagram as well. If you want to see what we look like today, I am schlepping it because I went for a walk, but I'm in my Everything Hurts and I'm Dying t-shirt and my leopard pants.
Fancy.
So fancy, so fancy. We'd love to see you over on YouTube. And then, of course, we also have the podcast. So you can pop us in your pocket and go for a walk, which is how I listened to you and Candace last week. I put you in my pocket and I went for a walk and heard all your thoughts about rest. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. So if you missed the podcast about rest, listen to last week's podcast. Okay. It was because it was
That's
really
good.
good. A great conversation. All right. Well, we wish you a great week on plan and, keep doing the hard work that you're already doing and thinking about the holes that we're using food to fill that they shouldn't fill. And, I don't know, journaling is also a really great thing to do too. Some quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
Yep.
those thoughts out.
Yep. It's hard work, but it's worth it work.
Totally.
Have a great week. Bye.